Hi, my name is Jude Matulich-Hall, and this is Titles, Talk, and Tipples. With me this evening is Kenzie Jennings, the author of Reception and splatterpunk western Red Station. Welcome, Kenzie.
Well, thank you so much.
So what are we drinking this evening?
I'll be honest with you. This is I think it's a Moscato, and I just picked it up because it was on sale. Cool. I usually drink white because the tannins in red often give me headaches. Mm-hmm. But and I don't drink very often. So I limit it to like one glass if I have anything. And yeah, Moscato is usually, it's not too sweet. Mm-hmm. It's just the right amount. So that's what I'm drinking tonight. I don't know the brand at all. I have no idea.
That's all right. We can't use brand names anyway.
That's right.
I mean, we probably could, but I just choose not to.
That's a good idea.
I figure if why give free advertising?
Yeah. Yeah. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking the same thing, actually. So white wine. So
well, cheers. Cheers. I love that. I love that. That is awesome. That is perfect Halloween.
Yeah, it's so weird. I think another guest and I came up with, because it's kind of a silly, like there's no hands and no head, right? And so I'm thinking, well, is the joke that your hand is holding the cup and then you're when you're drinking,
it's the head, right?
The head or something. But
I have no idea. But that doesn't. Maybe.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you have to have like a black background and kind of blend it, and then.
I'm not good with technology, so
no.
I'd have to have someone else do that. But like people doing all the little things they do with graphics.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I'm sure someone could figure out how to put my head on it. All right.
Speaking of that, I was watching I blame my students for this and friends of mine. I hate to say this, I've become kind of a TikTok addict because it's great for people with short attention spans. And there's one that's going around, speaking of the figure, the head and the little body. There's a Squid Game sort of application. Oh, okay. Have you been watching Squid Game at all?
I haven't been, but I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the red light, green light, the famous one where they're all in the big doll looking thing. And it's an app where you can actually play it, but your head is superimposed over this like computer character and it looks really weird. So that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
For your wine. Hi.
Yeah. Right on. So we're going to talk about our books, and I do want to say, so I just got back from vacation to New Orleans, and I read Red Station in the airport. So we had kind of a longish flight and a longish layover, and I was able to read it, and I thought it was just great.
Well,
I didn't get to read. I haven't looked at Reception yet, but yeah, I just wanted to tell you that Red Station, Red Station was just very enjoyable, and it was a really, for me, it was a quick read, because I think I kind of read fast, but also because it was such a great story, and it really grabbed me and took me through the whole thing from start to finish.
That's what I like to hear. Yeah. The pacing. We were told Death's Head Press, the publisher, reached out to several authors to do this. And then it just became bigger and bigger and bigger. More people started coming on. I think they're up to 13, and then they've got a new cycle coming on next year.
Oh, fun.
And at first it was, okay, you have to write, it's a novella. So a number of us have novellas, but then some people started breaking the rules and the books got longer and longer and longer. So I said, okay, well, it's got to be short and fast. So there you go.
So how many words was that?
I want to say maybe about 30,000, something like that.
Oh,
I think so. I don't know. I am one of those people.
Yeah.
I hate word count. I hate it.
Oh,
I hate the publishing standard. I've got that. Let's see. How many pages is this? This is printed out pages, obviously. It's 135 pages. So, and it's like, and that's, I guess.
So I believe the ratio is 250 words a page. So if we do some math, you might be faster than I am. That would be easy. Because I felt like, I can't talk and do math at the same time.
Yeah, I can either. 250.
What did I just do?
So it's about 32,000.
I think, it's between, okay.
Yeah. And it was, I got my introductory like writing practice. I wanted to be a screenwriter. So all of these things that I write now are kind of geared towards what I'm seeing as a film. So it's very, I try to make it as paced like a movie, and including the exposition at the beginning, introducing the characters.
Yeah.
So some people do not like it though. I mean, some of the feedback I've gotten, most people like the book, but I've gotten some feedback from people who they don't like my pacing. It was the same with reception, that I take my time at the beginning before things go crazy.
Yeah.
It's been a staple for me, I guess. I don't know why that is, but I think it's my screenwriting training.
Because that's what people expect from a movie, right?
Right. And there's obviously there are readers who enjoy it and readers who don't. They want the action, like start right now. And well, that's not me. I had one guy say when he read Reception, he said, and I took it as a compliment, a high compliment, actually. Other people might say no, but I definitely do. He said it was a lot like an A24 film. So it kind of a slow burn at the start, and then got from there. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll take it.
So what are some other examples of A24 films?
Well, I'm thinking like, was it all the Ari Aster films like Midsummer and Hereditary, and The Witch, which was kind of, it was more slow than anything else, but the visuals in it were so terrifying, just creepy all over. Yeah. I know The Green Knight came out. That's an A24 film. What am I missing here? Those are the ones that come to mind for horror. When I think about like Hereditary and Midsummer and The Witch, that's what I think. Okay. But the unraveling of these characters until it just kind of explodes. Like Hereditary just went bonkers in the end.
Yeah.
So, and Midsummer kind of went bonkers in the end too. So.
Well, it's like I really got invested in the characters. You did such a great job with your character development that I cared for all those characters in that carriage before they got to the house. And then I won't give too much away because of spoilers, but and then things go wrong. And it was like, so, I was actually like sad when certain characters got it, because characters are going to die. So
that's right. Yeah.
I always feel like when a author kills a character that they put work into, that it's like, not only am I sad that the character's dead, but I'm like, I'm what's the word? I'm awestruck by like, wow, to put that much work into a character and then just like you can never use that character again.
That's right. That's right.
Like
you gave that character a full backstory.
Yeah. And you did it quick too. Like you did, every single one of those characters, you just bam, bam, bam. So that's long-winded.
Well, and again, it's the pacing issue too. It's sort of, I love character work. If I'm not invested, in characters, why would I bother reading it if I don't care about at least one of them?
Yeah. Yes.
So as a result, you invest so much time and emotion into one of them. So how devastating is it when one that you really like just suddenly it's gone? I mean,
especially when you think someone's going to survive,
that's right.
And the great thing was that I think is so hard because there are so many stories out there and there are just so many tropes and there are only so many directions you can take a story. I was like, oh, there's a love story. Nope. I mean, spoilers. There will be spoilers because we're talking about this. But it's like you teased. It's like, okay, this is what hundreds of thousands of other stories take the plot. And it's like, oh, really? And then it's like, oh, nope. Oh, great. Good job, Kenzie. You did not. You surprised me. So that's, that's great.
It's kind of funny you say that because when I was asked to do this, the first thing I thought was, well, hell, I don't like Westerns. Why would I write a Western? Westerns are so masculine and I'm not really into that machismo kind of. So I said, I did a little research. I did a really stupid surface level research on horrible things that happened in the West. That's all I entered and just read all of these articles and chapters from books. And finally, I wound up with the story. It's loosely, the villains, the Adlers, are loosely based on the Bloody Benders of Kansas, which is America's first serial killer family. And that's exactly what happened. Well, not exactly. I took some liberties here and there, but they lured, they had a station home just like that. And they killed the travelers to rob them. And they brutally killed them. And the way that they killed them in the end is pretty much. So I used that story as a backdrop and I said, you know what? This is a slasher. It's what it is. And the book has since been told. Other people have said this. This is an old-fashioned slasher by the numbers. You've got certain Western character tropes. You've got the gruff shotgun. You've got the talkative driver. You've got the sweet kind of ditzy little couple that are on their way to the farm.
Yeah, the big, kind of dopey husband, and the
and the wife who's just like
yeah, it was great. Yeah,
and the mysterious doctor, and even more mysterious is the heroine who is. Yeah. I said I'm going to have a final girl in it, and I became so invested in the world of this final girl.
Yes, Clyde. I was gonna say Clyde, hands down, is such an awesome character. And her backstory, and you didn't do too much, and I was really impressed by that too, because the way you introduced your background, you didn't get long-winded with it, but you gave enough information that the reader can really use their imagination of what the hell was this schooling or something, whatever that was, because I think she mentioned something about there was a hint that she was an orphan.
Right.
And ended up in some crazy ass orphanage that teaches people how to be killers or it's like your imagination you left plenty of room for the imagination to go, but gave enough information to guide the imagination into this awesome, and to me, this awesome world of girls being trained to be assassins in the Old West and take care of bad men.
I exist to tame the West is what she says.
Yes.
That, and as a result of that,
I was going to say that was.
I've had when are we going to have a book about her? Yep. When are we going to have a sequel? So I've outlined it already. I have.
Oh, wonderful!
It's a sequel and a prequel. Yeah, and it's going to be titled Northway. So it is about her, where she comes from, and what happens after Red Station.
Okay.
So does she get to Idle Creek to marry this horrible man?
Yeah. This madman. And it would be. I'd love to know more about the school or whatever that was, the orphanage, and just all of that. Why do these people exist? To tame the West and stuff. But Yeah, it was awesome. And Clyde is such a great character. And I was thinking, you know, I just felt like there was more. And so I'm glad to hear that there actually is more.
Yeah, there just wasn't enough room in a story that was all self-contained. And I was like,
Sure.
You get too invested in the character, and we just need to make sure they get out alive, or somebody does. So
yeah. And it was you know, completely legitimate too, how she got out. And her weapon was awesome, of course. You know, I kind of felt, you know, being in a steampunk genre, it was like, and I'm an Assassin's Creed fan, so that's what I'm picturing is like, you know, and but it's
the cover, Justin Coons, did the cover he does the cover for the Splatter Westerns.
Oh, fun.
And she in the cover has I told him, I said, you have to have her on the cover, and you have to put her brace on her arm.
Yes.
So, and the fact that I'm just wandering around the house wearing it.
Yeah.
Why is she doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, at first I thought she had an ailment.
That's right.
Yeah. And okay, so that was, you know, yeah, you kind of think she has this ailment that she's hiding, but no, she's there to seek revenge on these horrible people, and she finds them. I was sad about Moody, you know. Yeah. There was that part of me that wanted that to work out, but I mean, obviously, spoiler alert.
Well,
you know,
yeah,
I mean, obviously it couldn't, you know. It's just it wouldn't have matched.
Right, and another thing, I was talking. I was on a YouTube cast last night, and we were talking about endings to books. Mm-hmm. And I like surprises, and I like things that kind of jerk the rug out from underneath you, but it's always been there in front of you. You just weren't paying attention. And reception is exactly that. I mean, that is really. And so I said, well, how is it going to be logical in Red Station to do something like that? Mm-hmm. So they're the characters, those secondary characters that were part of the house and part of the stage, you know, the driver, Moody, that I had to weave that all together. So
yeah, because you don't see what happens to the character. They're just assuming you hear. Well, you hear, you know, that's how I get into books, is like you hear stuff happening overhead.
That's right.
Someone, you know, something's happening overhead, and oh, Moody must have just got killed, you know.
Yeah. And then never mind.
You know, but there were very subtle hints, and and when she got hit in the back of the head, I was like, wait a minute, something's not right, because I was like, in my head, I'm like, that character was over there, and that character was over there, and I'm like, wait a minute, there was only two people that could have done that.
That's right.
That's the little pregnant woman, and I don't think it was her.
Nope.
It's great. So
yeah, that was like, and I know that you probably have done the same, is that when you plot out one scene with a lot of people, and where is the placement of the people? You know, what's in acting class, you know, in acting school or acting, the actor said, what's the blocking here? Where are people placed? So yeah, that was, and I had a lot of practice with reception, because it is about a wedding reception and a wedding. And so I had to figure out where guests were. And so this was a piece of cake, you know, it was like a handful of people. Yeah. So.
Well, and, you know, there's a certain murder, you know, Agatha Christie kind of murder, mystery aspect to this story, and by the sounds of it, reception as well. And so it's, you know, like we were talking earlier, that actually won't be in this video, so maybe we should talk about it again. It'll be in the outtakes video, but we were talking about mixing genres.
Right.
And, you know, this is obviously, the obvious mix is horror or splatter and Western. Mm-hmm. And, but I feel like there is this other aspect of like Agatha Christie, old school murder mystery. You know?
By the book, by the numbers. Right. Yeah. And one by one, and who is the murderer, and
and in this case multiple murders, which made it terrifying because it was like, and at first I have to admit, at first I was like, when she got attacked from behind after killing someone else, I was like, God damn it. She should know better. But then it's like right after I thought she should know better. The character says, I should have known, or, she should have known better. And it's like,
watch her back. That's right.
Yeah. But it's, in that situation where you have, oh, geez, let's see, what was it? The mother and the father, 2 daughters, a terrifying gigantic of a son, and then later you figure out there was 5 murderous beings,
and the actual family was 4. So yeah, it was a son. Well, the research suggests that it's supposed to be like a mother and a father and a son and a daughter, but there is more evidence that leads to the theory that the daughter was probably their actual daughter, or they were married. The couple, they were a couple. It wasn't a brother and sister. So, and that's the real story, not Red Station. Yeah. I said, no, not with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Benders were kind of, they're German descent. So I had to bring all the German out, and that was tricky.
Do you speak German, or did you have
no
you had to
I used to like I could say wie geht's, ich bin gut, all of the easy things, but I couldn't, like the sophisticated things that they say. No, I had to actually research conversationally, so, and that was hard. You don't just go to a dictionary and just type in words. You actually have to read it, hear it all in context, and it's harder to do.
Wow.
So, especially even worse, writing his piece of historical fiction as well. That was the tricky. I told all of the other splatter western authors whom I talked to, I said, the hardest part for me was the language. That was the hardest part. The language had to be as authentic as you could make it for that. And you don't know what it is. You have journal excerpts and letters and transcripts, but you don't hear it. They don't have recordings.
Right.
So you have to kind of make that up, and it's really difficult.
Yeah.
So imagine doing German too. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, because and each character had their own distinct way of speaking, and I do that too, and it is hard because, especially if you forget and you just start writing, you have someone else's voice in your, another character's voice in your head, where when you in dialogue, you start getting everything mixed up, and one character starts talking to another character.
But then that's what your editor's supposed to fix, right? The developmental editor is supposed to go back and say, wait a minute, that character would not say this. That's not what the character sounds like. So a good editor will do that. Because the Everstein Chronicle seems like it will be a book about, it's a book about, you have a number of characters in it.
Oh yeah.
And with all their links. I love it. I can follow.
I read like Tolkien and stuff, where you'll have like 15 characters and you got to keep them all straight, So my brain works with that. But I had a couple beta readers. I didn't take their advice, but I had a couple beta readers, which is like, maybe you can like cut the amount of characters down, which I didn't feel like I had many characters. I mean, I have 4 main characters, the main character, and then 3 very strong supporting characters.
Right.
But then I have like a god and and another demon and Mr. Smith, don't call him Lucifer, and and
right,
the captain,
exactly.
And the pyro and the just so I mean, but it's like, you want to keep a universe going, you have to have a lot of characters and just hope that everybody keeps them straight.
And your genre, in that genre, that blended genre that we were talking about earlier, the fantasy, steampunk, horror, dark fantasy, just mystery, you have to have a lot of characters because they're integrated into they're from all of those different varieties of worlds. So, this is American God stuff.
Yeah.
So, Neil Gaiman. So,
thank you. That's a great comparison. I love it. Well, and with your story too, it's like, obviously you have to have enough characters to kill off, because in a splatter story, people are going to die. So it's like, you have to have enough to give yourself room to give your audience what they are craving.
Right.
And with, it's like when you start, it's like an equal number of characters, bad guys versus good guys. So it's like, the good guys have a fighting chance, but
not if they don't know.
Not if they don't know. Exactly.
They're blindsided. We're having a nice dinner.
Yeah. And, it's like, oh gosh, when the doctor got it, it was just, that was.
I know. And
I loved that. It was,
Yes. And I loved his character. He was the only one of the good characters, the victims, survivors, whatever you want to call them, who was actually based on a real person. He was a doctor who was looking for a missing patient. And so there was nothing. I had to turn him into a character because there was nothing really the little blurb about him, but there's nothing really detailed about him. So I was like, what if we make him kind of a flirtatious, romantic character, but a gentleman? And
Yep. He was very gentlemanly. Yeah. I really wanted him to survive. There is that part of, no, that's totally okay. There was that part of me.
But you're there. It's got the romantic, right?
Yes. I was going to say the romantic.
I'm torn because I'm trying something different than I've ever wanted to do when I was younger, which is I always put romance in my stories when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And in fact, my debut book wasn't supposed to be reception. It was supposed to be, I hate to say this genre because I can't stand this term. It was supposed to be a chick lit superhero novel that I wrote, and it had romance in it. Right. And I finally said, you know what? I've been through this breakup, and then my mother passed away, and I was in a dark place. Mm-hmm. So I said, I just want strong women. Yeah. And they don't need anyone. They have their friends, whatever, but they don't, flirtation's fine. But why does romance always have to be at the core? Yeah. Why the conventional romance? Why the heteronormative romance? Why that? So the sequel, Northway, is going to toy with a lot of that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I have this really the main theme is of female friendship and companionship, and so and betrayal and things like that. So it will have horror in it. I am going to stick with that subgenre, that genre that I like. But in terms of romance, it's not going to be heteronormative. I don't want to do that. It's not a part of me anymore. So it just isn't. It's just, and we write what we know. We write what we feel, and that's the direction I'm going in. And if that breaks people's hearts, like, oh, the doctor and Clyde, and they were like, no, she's not there. Okay. She's there to get married. He should not be doing that. She is there. Yeah.
Well, and it was very surprising. I did not expect him to be the first victim.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, that was gutsy. You expect, if you were to put this back 50 years into, if this were a black and white Western movie, just let's go back in time.
Longer than 50 years. I mean, you're thinking about it. It's 2021 now. So
so 70. Let's go back 70 years. To like John Wayne movies. The story totally would have been that this doctor, helps her out, to escape and everything, right? That would have been the old story back then.
Right.
But I half expect, because she is such a strong character, and I'm really drawn to strong women characters that aren't, the whole thing though is I don't want the character to be overbearing, and she wasn't overbearing, because I think a lot of people make that mistake when they write a strong female character. It tends to get just too overbearing.
Well, and she can't be. That it makes no sense to have
she's
an overbearing.
Lady, at the same time, she kicks ass, which I totally love. It's like that.
Here comes my cat. I'm sorry, my cat's here.
No, that's okay. I'm surprised mine hasn't jumped up. He's kind of my cat's a little he's a little skittish, and so we've been gone for 5 days, and when we walked in the door, he was like, "Who the hell are you?" So he is around though. He was like, "Oh, it's you." It kind of took him a second, but
let me see if I do this. Hold on. Let me see. There he is.
Oh, hi, Ike. Ike, right?
Yep.
He is pretty. But and that's I think that's one big mistake, is when someone creates a strong female character, they tend to make her overbearing, really loud mouthed.
Oh yeah.
And like no emotion whatsoever. Like, oh, we can't, a strong female character can't have emotion, she can't. And she had times of fear, and times she got hurt, and she wasn't.
And I wanted her protective. I wanted her to but be businesslike about being protective, not simply, I'm not going to be vulnerable. And that was also very hard to do, because we, humans, naturally empathetic souls. So to create someone who said, okay, well, I do feel I have to protect the characters who are the most vulnerable, but at the same time, we got to get out of here. Which
is exactly, if you can put yourself in a horrible situation like this, that's totally how you would have to be in real life.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, so it's just great. So I highly recommend Red
thank you.
and I'm gonna.
Now you have to read some of the others too.
Yeah, I'll have to read Perception. Go ahead.
I would recommend some, but I don't want to do that, because I don't want to have any sort of. I think all of them are the ones that I've read up to 8 or 9. I can't remember. I stopped at Chandler Morrison's. Was it Cody who was after him? I can't even remember now. There's a number of them now. And they're all wildly different.
Oh, cool.
So they're not, of course, the characters in the stories are all different, but even the approaches, like Chandler, I pick on Chandler Morrison's because he's kind of, I love him to pieces. He's such a sweet guy. But he writes, you want to talk about somebody who writes really dark things. Just really like, I feel like saying, okay, well, Bret Easton Ellis is I think is a favorite of his. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So American Psycho. All right. But he reminds me, his work is kind of, so his particular splatter western, has this kind of meta approach where it's the Western story is happening, the with horrible characters and whatnot, killing each other and whatnot. But then there's the self-reflective bits that he has that are about himself, trying to write this Western. So he's integrated these things into this book. So like I said, the approaches are wildly different in these books. So you're not going to get a slasher like mine. You might get something very Lovecraft like. You might get there's a couple of cosmic horror ones, and where the Chris Triana wrote a werewolf one. So yeah, the 13th Coyote. So I would recommend which ones for you to read, but I can't, because again, they're so vastly different.
Yeah.
You just have to read the description and determine which one.
Yeah.
The Magpie Coffin, the first one, won the Splatterpunk Award for Best Novel.
Wow.
So for this year or last year. That's what kind of started the whole Western, bringing back the horror Western craze that's going on right now. Yeah. Everybody's writing a horror Western.
Sure. Yeah. So, and for me, I'm not big into splatterpunk. And so I'm really picky as to like when I do read something in that genre. And I can't always explain it. It's like there's so far you can go, and then I have to stop, and it was like, I thought there were a few times I was like, I'm going to have to skip a few pages, but it was like, oh, okay. That didn't make my stomach turn, It's like,
that was not my goal.
Good. That's good.
I do like there, I never in a million years would have thought I would be writing gory horror at all. Because I don't like it in films. I don't necessarily like it when I read, unless it is absolutely vital to the story. It has to be.
Yeah. And I feel like her weapon is this, what did he call those?
It's kind of a gauntlet. It's kind of an arm brace,
like a leather gauntlet. Yeah, it is kind of like a leather gauntlet that has a blades in it. So it's like, I think it's and even I don't get splattery gore. Well, I can't say I don't get gory. I do get gory. There's there's that balance of like leave a little bit to the imagination, but if there are blades involved, there's gonna be some splatter, and that's the reality of it, right?
Right, exactly. But at the same time, there doesn't have to be, it's sort of like, I am writing a slasher, so obviously there will have to be blood.
Sure. Yeah.
And then
your audience is expecting it. So if
that's right. It's advertised. Is it literally advertised that on here? Let me see.
It's a splatter Western.
Yes, it says right on there. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Which means
there's rules that you have to follow.
You have to. And it's funny because a couple of the books weren't that gory. I'm just sort of, they had very little bit and horror, but not.
Sure.
It was not extreme at all. And I thought, okay, well.
And are those also under Splatter Western?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Well, they were breaking the rules.
Like I said, sometimes rules just go out the door. Just said it like, well, we really like the story. We're just going to keep it going. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah. That's part of our job, I think, is to, I think because there are so many authors, especially after COVID, right? There's so many books out there. Any author is, for one, you're trying to carry on a torch from like great writers, like whoever your genre is. For me, it's like, I'm trying to carry Tolkien's torch. It's like, how can you continue this amazing, whatever I'm trying to think of. I can't.
How can you? Well, no, you put it well. How can you how can you carry the torch now?
Yeah.
How can you? And do you want to be as respectful as you can when you do that? Yeah.
But also at the same time, forging new paths.
Right. Yeah.
Because you don't want your audience to know exactly what's going to happen.
Exactly.
At every turn, And
but at the same time,
something new, which
really but they do want, and I'm learning this too. They do want some kind of connection personally to you, so that when they read your book, they can say, "Oh, this is Jude's book. Yeah, I know this because this is this is her style. This is what she does."
Yeah.
So speaking of forging things,
Yeah. And I think too that readers need an anchor. So there's a very highly experimental genre that I'm kind of putting it over there, where I think lots of writers get experimental, but I'm talking like the genre experimental that gets really far out. And so I think, that's a select few that are going to search that stuff out. For everyone else, we kind of need a little bit of an anchor. We need some familiarity, but we can't know what's going to happen next.
Right.
And if we happen to in our minds figure out what's going to happen next, we have to be pleasantly surprised. It still has to be like, oh, I knew it.
That's right. You have to have that feeling of you have to have what somebody told me, it was, you have to let the reader feel as if they're part of the whole process. So that's why it's like, oh, I knew that twist was coming. Yeah. I called it.
I saw this, but it's still, it's a happy surprise.
Right, exactly. It's not
it's like a pat on the back. Yeah, I'm so good at this.
Versus oh yeah, okay. She's going to close the mirror on the cabinet and the creature's going to be behind her. Okay,
yeah. And then So luckily I had a few people say with my novel that they weren't expecting certain things. Like I did a lot of teasers where, you think there, I won't talk too much about it, but
no, don't, please don't.
Okay. I won't, I'll stop right there.
Yeah. I'm excited to read it because, I'm starting with yours. And I want to read something that kind of leans, we were talking about this before about steampunk and kind of sort of little bits and pieces here and there. Because I want to incorporate something like that, where there's a blend of the steampunk into a Western without it seeming like, oh, it's a steampunk novel,
Sure. Well, and if I can give you some advice, I guess kind of advice, insight, blah, blah, that my publisher and I have been talking about. So because that's part of the show too, is right, giving the audience some information that they might not have. And because this show is just as much for writers as it is for readers,
right.
As for the fans of those writers. But, my publisher and I really flip-flopped a lot with using steampunk as a placement for this.
Right.
Because it's not full in your face steampunk,
right.
Not every aspect is steampunk. I've got the gothic horror, there's some other thing, but luckily recently I just came across like actual gothic steampunk, and it's not new, but it's definitely like forging its way through.
I've never read I guess a more contemporary steampunk kind of novel. I've read Jules Verne, which is the one of the originators of steampunk, arguably, but
and steampunk, it kind of wavers between sci-fi and fantasy. It doesn't just stick to one or the other. And the funny thing is about steampunk is you could be, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I was just recently, this could be months ago or last year, recently, but watching something and I was like, that's totally steampunk. Yet I looked it up and it is not labeled under steampunk whatsoever. And it was I see it in my head. It had fairies in it, so it was definitely fantastical,
right?
It was on the fantasy spectrum. But there were other things that were completely steampunk about it. But that does not show up. It came up, sci-fi fantasy, I think, was what it ended up coming up as. And I'm like, people are using more familiar terms to put these mixed genres in without actually labeling it steampunk, because even though steampunk is huge, right? It's everywhere. I mean, if you just start paying attention, you'll start seeing steampunk in all sorts of places. But it's kind of huge, but it's kind of a very small niche too. And so, it's like just using more familiar terms. I think more people are doing than just outright saying this is steampunk.
Right.
Now mine's under dark fantasy and dark fantasy horror and urban fantasy.
Well, and I think you're right. I think you put the nail on the head. It's more of a subgenre than anything else, than a straightforward genre.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And people are trying. They're trying to bring more to light the subgenres because so many people are dabbling in them.
Right.
And so many readers are looking for it.
Well, and that's what they want. And they know this author writes this main genre with several genres within it. And I love how they do that. Yeah. And then they want to find other authors who do that.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to find your readers. So they will come. Trust me. They will.
Yeah. So aside from Red Station and Reception, what else do you have out there?
Well, I have a little bit of everything. Everything from I have like a science fiction story out there. I have nonfiction, creative nonfiction. But since I've been working on horror, I have some short stories and some anthologies. There's an anthology coming out in December called The Baker's Dozen. And it is an anthology that's centered around bakery horror, baked goods and horror. And there's another one called Slash Her that's coming out next year, which is by Kendisha Press. I am working on the ending to my story that's due on Monday. So I'm just kind of like, speaking of the endings drive me crazy. I don't know about you, but Reception went through 3 endings.
Oh, wow.
Before I settled on the ending, I said, just driving home from work one day, and it suddenly hit me. And I was like, that's how it has to end.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And it's really, people are split. I mean, there are people who hate it and people who love it, and I get people who are like, what the hell? When they read it, what is that? And then other people going, "What? Oh yeah, I did not see that." But it was the only way it could end. And so this story that I'm writing, the short story I'm writing right now, is in a reception trap. What I call a reception trap. I had one ending for it and I hated it. So and now that I'm almost done with the story, I'm like, no, it cannot end that way. It has to be something completely different. And it's taken me to write a short story. It's only like maybe about 5,000 words, not very long, right? And it's taken me 3 months to write this short story.
That's okay.
3 months to write a short story.
Yeah, that's absolutely okay. Not all of us can be Ray Bradbury, who said, write a short story a week.
Yeah, that's right.
Or he did say there are going to be a lot of bad ones, but those couple of good ones are going to be awesome.
There's these kids though; they're coming out like the horror contemporaries. It's younger writers, and they have so much creative energy that they're writing. It feels like they're writing a book a month. I got to pick out.
I didn't read it. I'm going to have to look back on posts to find it. What it was some thread somewhere was like, what's your WIP right now? Work in progress.
Right.
And this person said they wrote, what was it? Like it was some outrageous, like 80,000, 90,000, it was a novel, a full novel. It could have even been more. They were like, oh my God, it's taken me 3 weeks to write this. And I'm like,
what the hell?
What the fuck? Excuse my language, but
no.
I'm like, okay. For one, I don't care who you are. I don't care how much energy. You could have the energy of a 10-year-old. You're not writing a 90,000 word novel in 3 weeks. That's gonna be crap.
Or not.
Or maybe not. I mean,
this is the most shocking thing of all. Okay, so I brought his name up and I'm going to bring it again. I love this guy so much, but I am so envious of his energy, his creative energy. Christopher Triana, he wrote The 13th Coyote in his book. How many pages is this? Like 500 pages, something. It's a thick.
Oh, that's
splatterwestern is big.
That's epic fantasy, right?
Oh, no. Let me tell you the rest here. He wrote a sequel that's longer, and he announced it like how many months after the first one came out? I think it was like 1 or 2 months after it came out. He already wrote it, and I'm like,
oh, what?
Where did this come from? And I was just sitting here going, I can't even write a short story in 3 months. So I just it took me 5 years to write my first book. Yeah. So I went, reception took a year. Red Station took me about a year, maybe a little less. But
the Everstein Chronicles, it's long. It's 108,000 words, which is 370 pages. So almost
but that's fantasy. Fantasy's that's about it.
Yeah, it's always going to be a little bit longer. But that took me 4 years. I mean, and I wasn't working on it consistently. Mm-hmm. So when the novel I'm working on now, I have worked on it consistently. And in a couple of days, it will have been 1 year that I've been working on it. Now it's going to be like a 600-page novel.
Epic.
But an epic. Still, it's like, a year. I've been pretty spotty the last like 3 months. I mean, like if I'd been able to keep up my energy with it, I would have finished it probably 6 months ago. But I petered out really fast.
Do you do that? Would you when you're working on a project and you've worked on it so much that you just can't?
It's almost like it's science. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction, I swear. So it's like if I do I did NaNoWriMo to start it. And so it was like 50,000 words in 30 days. I totally did that. But then it was like I had to take a month off, like limping along. And then, it's like, and so it's just like my brain can do so much, and that might be within this much of time or within this much, but it's like, it's totally going to go. If I do like some crazy ass word counts, I'll just plummet and just peter along. And then it's like at the end of the year, it's probably, I'll look back, in the future, I'll look back and say, well, that amount took me this long and that amount took me that. Oh my gosh, they equal each other.
That's right.
So it just is. And that's my pattern so far is I can be really consistent and do like 1,000 words a day or 500 words a day.
Right.
And at the end of the month, I have so much, or I can do like 2,000 words a day or 3,000 words a day. But at the end of the month, I'm still only going to have the same amount I did being consistent.
That's right.
It's just, and I know, maybe it's not like that for everyone, but it's definitely, I'm a roller coaster.
I am too. And I have a job that is so mentally, I always say this to people, like, it's so mentally exhausting. I teach composition at a community college. And it's in Florida, and the education system here is terrible. So I'm constantly having to help students think about how they're applying their language to their papers. So with that, and then at night, trying to write a page of the short story going.
Composite, you have all that information getting in the way.
Or yes. Or I can't think of a thing. I can't.
Yeah.
I become so dense, like dumb. It just doesn't come at all.
Yeah.
And so I use my summer and my breaks, anytime I have off, not weekends, because unless it's a short story, it's fine. But weekends are hard because I'm grading. So
right.
it just doesn't come. And so I, like you, I can write, like when if I'm on a month, like June is a great month for me. I'm like, right, churn that thing out, churn this out,
Yeah.
But after that, like you, I just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then by then I'm teaching. So I'm like, okay, let's let's teach you how to write a sentence today. I'm just like, what?
Well, and right now, so I'm finished with 150,000 word novel. I mean, I ended it. It's not finished because I did skip some scenes that I was like, I don't know what to do with the scene. I know it needs to happen, but so I would skip it because of NaNoWriMo. It was like I was trying to get that 50,000 words out, and which I don't know if that were a good thing or not. I will know next round, I guess. It was my first time trying to do that, and I wrote this second novel completely different than I did the first novel. The Eversteam Chronicles. I mean, that I don't know if I will ever have the experience that I had with Eversteam Chronicles. I knew one morning I woke up from a dream, a crazy dream, wrote down the idea. I told my husband and I, sometimes when we have bizarre dreams, we talk about them. Nothing special. We just, I had this crazy dream, and I was like, this dream, I was like, this idea is so crazy that it's got to somehow be out there.
You have to do it.
So I wrote down the notes. Now I look back at the notes, it's like maybe one or two of the notes apply, it's like, but it's like it started the process. But I knew the moment I started saying, I'm going to write, this has to be a book. This has to be in the world. The moment I said that, I knew that story from start. I knew the ending. I knew like the characters. I knew everything about this book. It still took me 4 years to write. But that's like, I wrote down the ideas, and then 6 months later, I started writing it. And then, it was like, and I'd write on it for a little bit, and then I'd take 3 months off. Oh yeah, that one thing I was doing,
I better go back to it.
It wasn't until like the last, it's like 3.5 years later, I'm realizing, oh my God, this is almost done. And so the last 6 months was just like, but so, and then this time around, but I edited it as I went along. And,
and that's another thing too, that also prevents you from moving forward, is if you keep going back to fix things.
Yeah. And if you take 3 months off, like when I would do that, I'd have to go all the way back to the beginning, and continuity is very important.
Yes.
For those of you writers who don't use continuity.
Especially if you're getting older like me and your mind is going and you can't remember names. Yeah. Like I can't remember names. Like what? Who is this character? My editor comes back. He's like, for Red Station, for Pete's sake, he goes, actually, it's this character. I said, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and in Eversteam, I changed 2 of the characters' names because I realized I had. What was it? I had 3 characters that all had names that started with R. And then I read somewhere, or I think I read a review somewhere or something that was like, the reader was super confused because 3 of their characters' names, too many J names, and I couldn't keep it straight. And I was like, oh, I totally did that. So I changed 2 characters' names. And that was a mess for a while.
Yeah. Thank goodness. And when you're writing and you're on a computer, at least you can replace.
Yes.
Thank goodness for that. Can you imagine doing it by hand?
The funny thing about that was I didn't know that existed.
So look at you on a YouTube channel and you didn't know that existed.
And then I realized it one day. I clicked on find, and I was like,
find and replace.
Oh, that's what it was. So yes, replace. I found replace at the same time I found find. And because when I started, I was doing the double space after the periods.
Fashion double space after the period.
I learned to type on a typewriter. So, and I didn't know that rule. Oh God, I didn't know that rule changed.
That's like new.
There are certain
new
things.
Rule that happened within the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
I went, what is this? What is this millennial thing? What are you talking about? I don't.
Yeah. So I was like, since when are there not two spaces after a period?
It looks neater. I know, it was all crammed together. It was just, I don't know. Yeah.
So when I found that, because I think I read it or I saw it on some YouTube thing of what novice authors, what mistakes do novice authors make? And that was one of them. And I was like, oh, and I had already sent out the manuscript a few times. Yeah. And so I was going back and I was like, oh my gosh, I have 370 pages to go through and do
that once each sentence too. Oh my God.
Yeah. So then that's when I found find, and I was like, oh, look at this. I can say find every double space and put in just one. And that's when I found replace,
yes.
Replace word.
Boy, that saves so much time and effort. And I had my issue wasn't the double space with the period. I had to get used to that. My issue was, and I got kind of scolded for this, was I was writing on a Word document program. Yeah. And whenever I start a new paragraph, I hit enter and then I tabbed it. And you're not supposed to do that for the formatter, because the formatter, reception, he printed it exactly as I did it. And it was like, the indentation is like really far.
Oh,
I am so glad.
So when you hit, that I'm having epiphany
that you did
this wrong. Okay.
Yes, and so it's sort of like, okay, so you can't do that. You can hit enter and just let it do it itself, or you can adjust the settings in paragraph. I mean, that's the way you do it. And I went, well, Jesus, that's not how I learned. Just like the double space, sure. That's not how I learned it. It's not what I learned.
It's really hard to unlearn something like that, because it's an automatic. It's not even really a habit. It's like so ingrained in your brain that it's a crease in your brain.
Exactly. New rules. There's so many new rules.
As long as too many rules don't change in the next decade, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So there's not many more rules that can be changed at this point. When it comes to like format, right?
Like format. I mean, there are lots of grammatical rules that are changing, but they're for the good, the better, not for the worse. I'm so glad that the universal they has become a pronoun to use. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's great too. And that was one thing I remember being like 16 and there's so many, that's why it came about, right? Is reading something and he, him, and it was like, why can't they just say they?
Yeah.
So that you don't even have, and then it totally swung the other way. I've come across stuff that a writer will say she, her instead of he, him. And I'm like, that's just as bad. And then when I found out there was a universal they, them a long time ago
that's right.
When is it? Like the 1500s, the 1200s, something like that, 13th century.
That
I can't even remember when
it's you're absolutely right. That's it. And somehow we almost had you think we were more progressive at that time with pronouns than we are at this point. Yeah. We're finally going back, but I'm like, this is really backwards. We have been ass backwards for a while.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
And we've always known, teaching pronoun use and pronoun reference and pronoun case and whatnot. And the they, I always said to my students, they have a grammar test at the end of the term. And it's just something that the departments decided a long time ago. And I think it's one of the stupidest things, but that's, whatever. Yeah. but yeah. In the test, we finally changed it, but there was so much controversy about changing the pronoun reference. They.
You froze a little bit
when you say someone and then you say they. What's that?
I'm sorry. So there was a delay. You froze for a second. So I'm wondering if you could back up because we didn't hear that. I didn't hear that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this grammar test has an issue, still had he or she and someone rather than they. Mm-hmm. And it's not until recently where a number of us said, we can't do this anymore. Oh. And the old guard is still sitting there going, no, that's not how it's done. And I got to say, the American Literacy Association and Chicago Manual of Style has they, and they've always had they.
Yeah. Oh.
So we are doing it in the Modern Language Association until now was doing it backwards. So I'm sorry.
Well, and it's like I think the problem with something like that is that people have made it so political. And that's, as soon as something's made political, it causes all sorts of issues where it's like, no, this isn't political. This is something that has existed.
Right.
Or politics existed. It's like you have to have a universal term. And
that's
it's
right.
Like, and if we can't accept they, them, then another term has to be made up.
That's right. If you have it,
so it doesn't matter what this term is.
Right.
It needs to exist, period.
Right. And I understand. I understand if they're so consumed with the idea that they is plural.
Sure. And that's where a lot of people, and my brain too, I have to admit, my brain too kind of stuttered. And I tried to write a character as a they, them, a single character as a they, them. That got really confusing. That takes someone getting used to, but at the same time, again, when you have a noun that stands for the pronoun, like someone, that's kind of vague. Yeah.
Then you have to. You can't.
Not to exist.
You have to.
It doesn't have to be political.
It's not political. It's practical.
No. We need that universal term. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
But the things change. Things are always changing with formatting and
so I'm playing with this is just an idea, and I might actually edit this out, but I'm enjoying talking about this. So if there's anything like spoilers or anything that you want edited out, just let me know and I'll take it out. It doesn't have to be in there. But but this is also about us like having fun too. So it doesn't have to all be on the video that goes out. But I'm playing with, and I don't know how this will go over. I'm kind of scared to do it because I feel like there might be some whiplash. But because my current novel is more epic fantasy, I'm dealing with like elves and ogres and things like that, so the Fae, F-A-E, right?
Yeah, right.
So the character that I wanted to write as they, them, and it just got confusing. Because, it's like when they were in a group was when it got confusing, even
right, because you would say they to mean the group.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And then you're trying to say they to me. So I am going to write this character as they, T-H-A-E, because they're Fae. And I'm like, I don't know if it's going to go over well. I'm going to try it and see what happens and see if, because it's
fantasist. There's a fantasist that plays with words. Who was it? Who am I thinking of?
Well,
I don't know who I'm thinking of, but there's a fantasist who actually plays with names like that. So it is done in fantasy. So you're in a good genre to do that.
Well, and I'm hoping when I go to look it up that it doesn't already exist. But if it does, it's not like we can't use other things that people have come up with. But
and watch it be a real name. Yeah. Watch it have origins.
Oh,
and
probably.
Like, well, then I'm justified in using it. There you go.
Yeah.
So do you research your names when you create them? Do you look at the...
I do. I do, because especially when I'm trying to make up like like dwarf names and ogre names and stuff. Because, you can look up great ogre names and there's like hundreds of names, right? And, elven names. And they're all based on like Tolkien and prior. Right. But what I do is I'll look something up and I think it was ogres. It was like I noticed a pattern of like lots of X's and Z's and strong sounds. So then from that information, I'll make up my own. And I will research full names to make sure. And it's really funny. I have a funny story about this. Is I had a character. I'm so embarrassed about this. I had a character. Oh shoot! Now I can't think of it because of course I changed the character's name. I had a character that I called Randall Flag, and it was like. And
was it subconscious or was it?
I think it was subconscious. The character, maybe the type of character it was or something triggered something in my brain. And I was like, and it was just like I wrote down the character, I came up with the first name first, and then it was like, Randall, what's Randall's last name? Oh yeah, I wanted him to be a patriotic character. So then I was like, well, what can I use? Oh, Flag. Perfect.
Right. Yeah.
So exactly. And I'll put an extra G on it. And then finally, one day, my publisher was like, so you need to change this character's name. And I was like, why?
I love my name.
So, and he was like, because we often talk about Stephen King. And so it was kind of one of those conversations that we were talking about Stephen King. We were talking about the character, and he thought I knew what he was talking about, and I thought he knew what I was talking about.
You had no idea it was.
And I had no idea. And suddenly it was like, and then the light bulb went off, and I went, oh my God. Because it was years ago. I mean, like I must have been 17 years old or something when I read that novel by Stephen King.
It was in your subconscious. That's exactly.
It was totally in my subconscious. It was like Randall, boom, Flag,
And it's word association too, probably. That's why it was like, okay, well, he's patriotic, but you immediately went to Flag because it's like, it's word association. Immediately when it's Randall, that's what comes to my mind.
Right. Yeah. And so, and that's the thing. That's the other, I think I might have come up with the last name first. And then it was just like, oh, Randall sounds really great. Yeah. So, and I've had people just like, are you kidding me? You didn't realize? And it's like, but it was like that one time that I didn't look up a name. And so it's like, always, when you come up with a character's name, look it up.
Look up everything, not just the characters' names, but like even the places like towns that you're creating. Mm-hmm. I can't count how many times I've like, oh crap, that is a real town with these people that have such pride in this town. I better not do this because that's where everybody's dying, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Like, crap.
Yeah. And I think it gets really sticky when you start using real places. So like for me, and I don't know how well this will go over, but I wanted the world to be familiar, but I wanted to put just enough of a feel on it that it's like, this is not the world you're used to. So like Africa, I spelled with a K, and America, I spelled with a K. Someone got really mad about that. And I'm like,
yeah, I can see that.
Whatever, whatever. They were like, that's
unless you had something that would lean in that direction anyway. Like it was kind of a fascist state. And, if you had some dark element of it, that it probably would have worked.
Yeah. So
that's fantasy, like other, what was it called? Alternate reality, alternate.
Yeah. And that's all it was. And, and I was replacing all my C's with K's. And so it was like, so I did not choose the K for America because I wanted to make this statement about how America's gone down the tube or whatever, it's not the KKK thing. It's like, no, look at all of them. I replaced all the C's with K's. The Caribbean is spelled with K.
Everything's K.
Magic is spelled with a K.
That's right.
so I eventually I might get some more whiplash from it. But I mean, it's already written. I cannot change it now.
Yes, you can. You can always publish. That's the thing. Is it Is it your book, your published book?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's in the published book. I think if I remember correctly. And it's kind of, I'll have to look back and make sure, because I mean, in my mind, it's like we're writing fiction. We should be able to change whatever we want. But once the first book is out, so it's like I kind of can't change.
You can't.
No.
You know what drives me crazy, speaking of that, is that in the back of my mind, every time I'm researching something like that and worried, I am actually thinking about a potential reader who'll write a review saying, well, actually, that's not really what was going on, or that's not.
That's really funny that you say that, because there are a lot of readers out there that will say, well, actually, and they're wrong.
That's right.
So
right. That's right.
Yeah, I wrote a story that takes place in it's part of the steampunk universe, but it's early before the Eversteam Chronicles. And so it's like so the Eversteam Chronicles takes place between something like 1880 to 1920.
Right.
I spread them out, but this is taking place like 1830s, 40s, 50s, something like that. So more like full on in the middle of right before Victorian era, just at the turn of the Victorian era. Right. And I brought in rubbers, condoms,
prophylactics, right?
And I looked.
These are ancient. They're ancient.
I looked up the terms, and I was like, you know what? They called them rubbers back then.
That's right.
They did. Right. And I put it in a short story, and I put it in a critique group, and there must have been just a handful of people that were just like, well, actually, and they, and like paragraphs and paragraphs is like, excuse me, I hate to use the term, but mansplaining.
No. That's.
And I was like,
it's always a dude who does that.
And I was so pleased. Oh gosh, there was one critique that it was this, and that's something to, when someone reviews and critiques should be pretty,
the point, right?
If you're wasting your time writing pages and pages and pages of it, critiques and reviews, and you're a writer, I think you should put some of that energy into your stories and not your reviews and critiques.
Yes.
It's different if you're doing reviews, you're a reviewer,
Right.
But if you're a writer critiquing other people's writers, I get deeply offended when a writer spends that much energy.
I do too, and it's kind of it does feel like I always wonder, what do you got going on in your life that you're doing this?
That you're reading that much into something.
Exactly.
That they put that much energy and time into writing it, but they put no energy or time into looking up to make sure that I was wrong and they were right.
That's right.
And so I was so pleased. I copied the link. It was on Wikipedia, like the first thing that comes up. I didn't even choose some obscure, because I've come across some obscure stuff, and I'll try not to go for the first thing, Wikipedia. I'll try to delve deeper to get the obscure stuff. But I didn't even choose the obscure stuff I found. It was just boom, right there, Wikipedia. When were condoms created?
Yep.
It was right there. And they were like, you can't use this term. Actually,
I can. In fact, it's ancient. Thank you very much.
And I was like, actually, ha ha ha, without trying to woman-splain. I was like, actually, ha ha ha. This was, condoms were invented.
Did you get an answer? Did you get a response to that?
Nope.
I didn't think so. Shut down. You don't have anything to say now.
Yeah, because things like that, I'm
very self-conscious about that, and it's from. Well, it's also from, I think it is a very, very gendered issue too. Like, we are very used to being corrected.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are used to doing that towards us.
Yeah.
now research is available to everyone. Women can now research too. Oh my God. and actually we're better at it. So, because we're more focused.
Meticulous.
It's
called dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
Right.
No one's going to catch me on this one.
I'm telling you, because it's from a lifetime of being corrected. So it's like, all right, now it's going to be back. It's going to be served to you times 10 back at you. So well, yeah.
There is an interesting, there is a term for it actually. And so it's actual facts and perceived facts.
Oh yeah.
so when it comes to my publisher and I were talking about this because I had the word okay, not okay, the letters, but I spelled out the words.
Right.
Which some millennials don't know that okay is an actual word and it's not spelled okay.
That's right.
Okay. That's called mom-splaining. But so I had okay in my novel and it really bothered me. Like when I would go back, because I don't know about how you edit, but when I edit, I read and reread and I read it out loud and I take a break and then I read it. And sometimes I'll go backwards. I'll start the last chapter and read through and then, so it's out of order, but like, just so my brain kind of,
right.
Because I want to be really meticulous with grammar and everything. So, every time I would come across the few times, maybe 6 times throughout the whole novel, I had a character say, okay. And it was just the one character that's how they said, that's what they did. They said, okay. And it bothered me because I'm like, this is, 1880s. Well, it was actually like right at the turn of, so 1900s. Yeah, I got to look that up. I don't think that happened till the 50s. Well, it didn't. It happened 1850s. I was thinking like 1950s. But okay actually existed like back in the Victorian era. Yeah. But it was just, it felt so out of place that my publisher and I decided to just change it all to all right. And he was talking about how, well, there are perceived facts that there are certain things that you can't get away with, even if it's true, even if it's historically correct. There are some things you can't get away from.
Isn't that weird?
And one of those is that, if you're writing fantasy and you're back a couple hundred years or whatever, you cannot use words like okay. You're not going to get away with it.
Because it's an anachronism. That's what somebody's going to say. Right.
Yeah, because it was that was political actually, which is funny, so that's just kind of, and someone mentioned that might be the whole rubber thing was kind of a perceived thing that I'm like, I'm not changing it. Just
that's not because that okay would be just pure expression slang.
Yes.
Whereas rubber is an actual thing. It's slang for a thing.
Yes.
So no, that wouldn't be perceived fact. That would be facts. So
right. Yeah.
I totally get okay. I totally understand that. But rubber, no.
Nope.
I concur because I have researched that too. Yeah. So
yeah, because the thought is, I believe, if I'm wrong about this, I'm totally okay with saying I was wrong about it. But
is that okay with okay or okay with a?
Yeah. O.K. as an okay corral. No, I don't know. But was that they were calling them rubbers as it was kind of a slang thing because some people think that they were called rubbers because they were actually made out of rubber. It's like no, that's not why they were called rubbers. So that's another perceived thing was like, well, rubber, people weren't using rubber back then. And so there was no way that it could be called rubber. Yeah. Anyway, but I'm like, well, I could go into detail, but then nobody's going to know what I'm talking about. It's like,
well, don't you think it's
intestines.
Another thing that's fascinating is why are you honed in on one thing that's not even all that important?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was like a paragraph. I mentioned it.
Like, why aren't you honed in on the fact that I got characters confused? Exactly. Why aren't you honed in on the fact that I got characters confused? Which is important versus, well, rubber is, I don't think that was actually used in that.
Yeah. Come on, critique the real stuff. Yeah. It's hard to find good.
Let me see your doctorate in prophylactics. You wrote papers, didn't you? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Peer reviewed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love the people that come back with, well, I have a degree in creative writing. And it's like, that's nice. I do too. And I still screw up. So how about we all agree?
Oh my gosh. Then there's that too. Like whether or not a degree in creative writing entitles you to such an opinion. And I'm like, does any degree really entitle you, unless you are like an expert in, I don't know, virology or something?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we think highly of ourselves. And I think that's okay.
I try not to.
I try not to. Yeah. That's called humility or being humble. You know?
Unless I'm sitting there and I'm going, no, that's not, somebody's blah, blah. No.
Yeah.
No.
It's interesting.
But then I sit and I wait for somebody else. I wait for you to come back and correct that person. I wait for somebody else to correct them. And they go, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. I agree.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what are you writing now?
Okay. So I'm doing 3 things. Well, obviously I told you the short story. I've got to get it done. So tomorrow I will finish it and turn it in tomorrow. That's my goal. But I've outlined Northway and I'm working on, I've already printed out and written some notes. I made the mistake last night. I don't know if I'm supposed to do this or not. So yeah, I hope I don't get sued or anything like this. I am working with another writer on a novella. Mm-hmm. And it's his project, but he asks other writers to come in and co-write with him. So I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it or not, but he's generally well known. He's a screenwriter. And what he does is he has a screenplay and he has a writer help him write the novella adaptation of it. So that is what I'm doing right now. Okay. And that's National Novel Writing Month. That's what that will be for. And then I'm going to get into Northway. I've got to write it. Wow. I got to write it. Got to do it. I was working, I'll tell you though, I was working on, I have it, half of it written already. And it's like already like, it's already like 50,000 words already. It's a psychological, a psychosexual thriller. And what I mean by psychosexual is probably not what is actually intended. It's a dirty ass thriller is what it is. It is. It's an erotic thriller. And I just got on board with it because I started watching all of these late 80s, early 90s erotic thrillers like Basic Instinct and Fatal Attraction and Black Widow. And I was like, these are so sordid and interesting and twisty. Yeah. And the central female characters are so wickedly badass. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. But I love them. One of my favorite movies now is Fatal Attraction. I love Alex. I think she is such a controversial character because everybody associates her with like crazy bitch, sure. She's going, but when you watch the movie closely, it's not her fault. for the first half of the movie, she is being led on and it gradually gets to the point where you see she's so desperate for his love that she will go to such lengths and then finally turn into a psychopath. Yeah. Which is a little weird. Like that was I read a lot about the making of it, in the end with the knife and everything and the creative choices to turn her into a monster were so stupid because she wasn't originally supposed to be, that ending was not the original ending. And he said, well, we've got to make it so the audience goes, yeah. And I'm like, that is so cheap. It's just, so I said, you know what? I'm going to write my own.
Yeah.
I want to write one. So I am writing one about a woman who, it's set in Florida, in Central Florida, because that's where I live. And it's about a woman who is so obsessed with trying to find love that she does it all the wrong way, obviously. And it's about another woman who is after her, and for reasons I can't say, but there's a lot of sex and violence in it. So, and I put it on hold because of Red Station. So, because of everything going on with it, it was like, oh yeah, you know, I like that too. So I will eventually, everybody, all the guys keep asking me about this book because they want to read a dirty book. And I'm like, all right, that's fine until, you know, whatever. And I'm like, and some women I know, they're like, oh, when are you going to get that done? And I'm like, it'll get done. You just have to leave me alone.
Yeah.
So, and the title it's a terrible title. It's titled Nice Girl because of the whole, she's such a nice girl, but you don't really know who she is, you know, and it's a working title. I'm just playing with it right now. But I got so involved in those characters and then I just did not know where it was going. And so that's another reason why I stopped. So one day I'll finish that. Hopefully next year I'll finish that. And I don't even know who published it. I don't like, Death's Head Press would not publish it because they're more interested in horror. I don't know who publishes really sordid, dirty thrillers. I don't really know who does.
Well, you know, there's that. Well, are you? So you're not an independent writer. You send your stuff out.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. I'm not an independent writer.
I have no technical skills.
I do. I have a publisher absolutely because of that. Like, I mean, it took me a year to get my website.
It's great that you've got one. I don't even have one. I have my blog site that I've turned into an author site, but it's not, you know, I'm like,
yeah, that's okay. I mean, the reason why my website looks so good is because my publisher sat there with me explaining, because I was like, I get to one thing and I try to create something and it wouldn't end up in the right place. And he has actually walked me through stuff. And then because of his guide, I was able to figure, it's like once you know a little bit, you start understanding. I mean, it was literally just because he was guiding me on some things. And I finally was like, oh, it's kind of just relax and click on something. And it's not a big deal. I screwed up though. I actually screwed up my whole website at one point and I had to start over. And that was torture. But, you know, he helped me. And I do say, even with his help, that my website is all me. And that was my design. And but he just helped me figure some stuff out. But yeah, it's on top of trying to write and, you know, with an independent publisher, you still have responsibilities as a writer. They don't have millions of dollars to do everything for you.
We do the marketing. We do a lot of the marketing. I mean, your publisher, I don't know about yours, but Death's Head Press, they do all of the right things with marketing. They can. They go to conventions, they make appearances, they go on shows, they advertise that way, they put ads in places, but it doesn't make any difference because as you addressed, there's so much out there. There's so much content out there.
There is.
So, yeah.
And I don't, I think with, you know, I'm not sure just because I've been with my publisher for a year, but we just released my novel. So I still don't know like everything he's going to do. So, you know, I'm still like,
you will.
I will know. Yeah, absolutely. I will know how far he'll go with marketing and stuff and what he won't do. And, you know, he supports anything I'm going to do. So I'm just like, I'm going to Comic-Con, and he's like, okay.
They'll and he will definitely make sure you have everything you need for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
A good independent publisher, small press, will do that. I'm actually a lot more impressed with what small presses do versus the larger big five, because the big five, granted, you get your books in brick and mortar bookstores.
Yeah.
But so does everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm like, how many?
My books will be available in all the big bookstores. Barnes and Noble, it will be, because we're still working on it. My book is out there. It's on Kindle right now. And any day now it's going to be available on paperback through Amazon. And then in a few months, it'll be available in other places. And he's going to do an audiobook and all that. But it's going to be in the catalog that all bookstores get. So it's, in some cases, it's going to be up to him to however publishers contact bookstores to get those books in, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
And then on my end, I can do anything I want. I can call up.
You can do it
and say, hey, will you carry my book? I mean, it's really that simple.
And it's just a matter of whether or not that they can, if they don't sell your book, can they send it back to the publisher? I mean, it's always the returns. That's the only issue that small press publishers have, is that they have to be able to afford that, to be able to, if they don't sell, can they send them back? Do they have storage space for it, etc.? So I wish that Death's Head Press did that. I wish that they appeared more in bookstores. They had books in more bookstores. They haven't been very proactive with that, but I think, again, it's difficult to do.
Yeah.
And it really hasn't made much of a difference, because I've watched other small press in my area in horror, in gory horror and who have books in brick and mortar bookstores, and they'll have like two.
Yeah.
It's not like they'll have like like a Stephen King has a whole display, You're not going to have that. You're just going to have like one or two, and then that's it. So
I think I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to let you finish your thought, because I know with me, if I get interrupted, I'll forget what I was saying. But, I think that's, as long as you're available in the catalog.
Right.
And for this, it's Ingram, which is one of the biggest ones in the United States.
Ingram. Yeah.
Ingram. That people can order it from their local bookstore.
Right.
And
exactly.
So I think that's more the aim than actually having physical copies in books.
Yes.
Because of the returns.
Yeah. And another thing that I've noticed is obviously, besides having a storefront, your own publisher having a storefront, as well as, all the chains like Barnes & Noble online and Books A Million online, et cetera, and Amazon, of course, is to also have work with other independent distributors. Like, I know that I've been following this website called Godless, and
I was going to mention Godless.
I was like, I've never heard of it before. And I started seeing all the Death's Head Press books were up there. And I was like, what is that? And I realized what they were. And I said, oh, that makes sense now. Okay. So they're all going that kind of direction. Yeah. And it's kind of nice to see. It's a real community. So
so it's a Godless, for watchers that don't know, www.godless.com is a supporter of horror writers, splatterpunk horror writers that don't necessarily have a niche, because I know that some stuff is so extreme. Some horror is so extreme that they don't have a publisher that they can go to.
They have a publisher who has such a they can't accept anymore because they have too many submissions.
Sure. Yeah. So I know I think erotica is another outlet that a lot of publishers will say we do not accept erotica and extreme horror.
Right.
And so Godless is like, hey, send us your extreme horror,
We'll do it. That's right.
They not only support like self-published authors, but they support self-published / independent authors.
Yes.
So it's
but
people
it's
that aren't represented.
And publishers. They work with the publishers. Because I didn't know. I had no idea. They didn't work with me.
I didn't either. You know, I didn't. And I didn't know until this moment that you said. You know, I knew that they supported authors, but I didn't realize they supported independent publishers too. So
yeah, it's just like Death Head Press is up there. Oh wow, okay.
That's
well,
great.
All right, okay. That they need that. Because we got some writers that are doing some really dark stuff.
Yeah.
Some things that I don't even like. I read about putting that. Reading a book, putting it down. No.
Yeah. There's just some place, and that's okay. I think that's totally okay.
Yeah.
You know, I recently had someone else that I was like, you know, I can't guarantee I'm going to read your stuff, but I'm going to support you the whole time. You know, and it's just because of my own ability to absorb whatever, you know,
right?
Like,
and that's fine.
I have to sleep at night, and if I'm reading something and it makes me feel like I'm a puke in my throat,
I have it all the time. It's like the first thing. I have the horror people, and then I have like certain family and friends who refuse. And they're so like my aunt who's my friend, you know, and she said, "I'm sorry, Kenzie, I can't read your books." And I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you're like, this is great that you're doing this. That's all I need. I don't care. I told her, I said, I'm not writing for you.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally. I'm not writing for you.
As long as she's okay with it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they do. They feel a little like your friends might feel a little like upset because they feel guilty. They feel like, I feel like I'm betraying my friend by not reading it. I'm like, no, dude, you're not. It's not your thing. I would rather you not read it because it's not your thing.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Oh gosh. They feel like you put someone through torture. You know, they were like, I'm gonna support you no matter how much it hurts me. It's like, no, that is not a good relationship.
Oh my God. Wait, no. Oh my God.
But I do have to say, for people that are worried, you know, if you are worried about picking up Kenzie's book, the Red Station, it gets iffy. Like if you're one that can't handle the gore, I would say this is gory. Yeah, but you know, we all have our limits, and for me, like I do definitely have my limits. I thought you were approaching my limit, but I was like, oh, that went pretty far, but now it's over. Whew, you know, it's like if it were going to go any further, you know, and I know everybody's different, but like you know, and I don't know. I think it's okay to even skip stuff. That doesn't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I mean,
skip a paragraph here and
it's not going to ruin the story as long as you know where it's going.
I think, you know, if you get to a point where the blades are going, you might want to skip a couple sentences or even a paragraph, but it's definitely worth reading.
I have to say though, like I said, this is nothing in comparison to Reception. Reception is just balls to the wall because it's about cannibals, you know. So cannibals at a wedding, you know. At its heart, it's about a family that's kind of broken because it's about a woman who's coming out of rehab. And she's kind of the black sheep of the family. And she had a benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome. Oh, okay. And so it's made her like, she's like going through all kinds of withdrawal hell. Oh yeah. And her sister wants her to be in her wedding. So she's getting pulled out of rehab. They're very tentative about that. Like, really, are we going to do this? Be very careful. But they just let her do it. And so she is going to take part in her sister's wedding. And nobody wants her there, you know. So it's family drama, but everybody in her family agrees with one thing, that there's something wrong with the groom's family. They don't like the groom's family, except the sister, of course, you know, the sister who's being seduced into this family. And it turns out that it's not a twist. Everybody says it's a twist when it's actually on the description of the book. The groom's family are cannibals. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what it is. And so it's balls to the wall, crazy ass gore, like really.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Is nothing.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you're gonna write a story about cannibalism, I mean, I guess you could just hint at it. You could write a psychological thriller.
You could totally could.
Without showing the gore. And I mean, a few movies have come to mind. Unfortunately, I can't think of the titles. I saw this.
Well, I saw one recently because I watched this film last night called, it was a Titan or Titan. It was so batshit crazy. It's not a cannibal movie, but it's a French movie. And the woman who directed it, she directed a film called Raw. That was her debut. And Raw is about a girl going to veterinary school and she becomes a cannibal.
Oh.
And it is very gory towards the end, but it's not over the top at all. It's just, there's like one or two really shocking moments, but that's it. But it's enough for people are like,
yeah.
a lot of like this,
Yeah.
But yeah. So she's very, she's cautious about where she places those moments.
Yeah.
And she doesn't saturate it with like over the top ripping people apart kind of thing. So yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I feel like the, cannibalism kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with zombie, zombie
right.
genre. Even with that, like, I can't, no offense towards anybody, not the writers, not the creators or anything, but just like I realized I used to be big time into zombie flicks. And I still, to this day, the original
Night of the Living Dead?
Thank you. The original Night of the Living Dead is one of my favorite movies. Oh my gosh. And if you know anything about film history and all that stuff, the mold that man was breaking when he created that film and stuff, it's just the history behind it in itself is just fantastic. But then it was at a certain point, I think it was, let's see, Dawn of the Dead takes place in the mall, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it was that, those movies. Who made those movies?
George Romero.
Thank you, Romero. There was a point where I just had to stop because I knew I loved Night of the Living Dead and I was going to watch them all from the very first one. And there was a point, it was after the mall. It was during the one that took place in the mall.
Right.
That I literally got nauseous as I was watching.
Yes. They got progressively more and more violent. Yeah.
And I worked in a theater decades ago. It was 100 years ago now. And there were the new ones when Romero started remaking them.
Or Zack Snyder who remade Dawn of the Dead.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
And, that one I got through okay, but there were just certain things that I had to start looking away. I was like, I cannot watch. I can't. And then it was like, okay, I have to plug my ears. I cannot hear it because I have such a vivid imagination. I think looking away made it worse. So it was like, no, block out the sound. And then one day it was like, you know what? I started watching The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, the first episode was so good. But it was like, I cannot put myself through this. The problem is like for me, this, it's, and some people, maybe they revel in this. I do not. It's like, I don't want to dream about it. I don't want to think about it when I'm eating. I don't, and the thing is, the images get so burned into my brain that I won't stop thinking about it. It's like an obsessive behavior. And it's like, I get hot at night. I want to stick my foot out from under the sheets and let my foot hang off the end of the bed and not sit there awake for 3 hours trying to cool off my foot going, there's something under the bed. No, there's not something under the bed. No, nothing's going to grab, it's like, I need to be able to sleep. I'm at the age where I need to be able to sleep at night.
Exactly.
So it's like, I know my limit. Sometimes I don't know my limit till I'm getting there.
Well, I think everybody has theirs. I wouldn't even say, I mean, I certainly do. I get terrified of things. I do.
Yeah.
And it actually, I'm much more terrified by the subtle things rather than the cannibals or the zombies.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What the things that scare me the most are the ones that you don't see, like hauntings or I last night I was on a YouTube, a friend of mine who is a book reviewer. He has this series called My Favorite Horror Film or My Favorite Horror Novel. And we talked about the movie that I recommended, which was Terrified, which is an movie from Argentina. And it is about a haunted neighborhood, 3 houses that have supernatural entities in them. And it is really scary. and scary because it isn't gratuitous and it's strange and we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's you have these images burned in your head. That there are like 2 images from that movie that are burned into mine that I could never shake.
Yeah.
And Eric, when he was talking about it last night, he goes, there are 2 moments in this movie, the exact same ones,
Like,
so just like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
What is this?
And I know some people, I do enjoy those moments. So like if I'm going to watch something that scary, I'm going to watch it like in the middle of the afternoon,
right? In the daylight, right?
Several hours between the time I watch it and the time
But you're not safe in the daylight. Now there's daylight horror. So
right. There is daylight horror.
Like I remember Dawn of the Dead was in the daytime. It wasn't it was in the mall in the day.
Yeah. Oh, and I refuse to watch fast zombies. That I will not watch zombies that can run. Oh no.
Like the Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead.
No.
Or what are they called? The plague, not plague zombies. The virus zombies.
Yeah, the 28.
Like, 28 days later.
You know what? No, I can't say that then because I love 28 days or 28 days later.
Yes. And its sequel is good. 28 weeks later is good too.
I haven't. Oh, no. I have seen that. Yeah. See, I guess, again, there's it's like, where is my limit? Because I did enjoy those movies.
See, I was going to say, but I think it's what you're trying to say. The idea of fast zombies is terrifying.
Oh,
terrifying. Like
I will not play a video game of no.
And that doesn't help that there are jump scenes in it too. Like in a video game, it's something that's running right at you or pops right at you, and you're like,
yeah,
I can't.
Shadows in the dark running at no. I had to stop.
That Silent Hill crap. No, I can't.
Oh, no.
Resident Evil. No. No.
I had to stop playing a game because one scene freaked me out so much. And it's so fun because it's called Little Nightmares.
With a title like that, why are you playing? Like I'm going to have little nightmares tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't. Another thing is that like those games I play on my phone. So like I'm sitting here like this and it's right there. Like the face comes like right at, and you're usually like this. And so it's right in your face.
I hate it. And that's this time of year. I'm so careful with like emails and Facebook posts. Like it's my own rule. Like this time of year, do not watch any videos posted on Facebook. Because those damn jump things.
Somebody will do that. Somebody will say, watch this funny person, and something screams in your face.
I hate those so much. I can't.
Everybody does. Everybody, and it gets everybody. Even the people who say, I don't care.
Some people enjoy it. I do not.
I don't like it either.
At all.
It's one of the reasons why I don't like going to haunted houses, during Halloween. Because I can't stand actors jumping out at me.
There's a part of me that's like, ooh, I want to go to a haunted house. And then there's like, no. I will hit the actor. My natural inclination is to fight, not flight. Yeah.
So I'm going to flip and punch you in the face. break my hand.
So this week in Halloween news, teacher Kenzie Jennings got arrested for punching.
I'm not joking. I will not go to Universal Horror Nights. I will not do it. I've had students every year. In fact, this year, are you going to Universal Horror Nights? I'm like, no. I would be sued. I'm all over social media. So I'm at Kenzie Bly J on Twitter and Instagram. Actually, no. Kenzie Bly J on Twitter and TikTok. Instagram, I'm Kenzie Jennings 2 because there's a 1 and I don't know who it is, but I'm mad. and then Kenzie Jennings, obviously, on Facebook. So I am very accessible on social media. I'm very much, despite everybody saying, I don't like Facebook, I don't like Twitter, Zuckerberg, all this crap. I actually think it's fantastic for authors. So I'm sorry, but this is our marketing. And find me there. And there you go. So, but I also have a website, kenziejennings.com. I mean, that's my crappy little author site. It's not really an author site. But I have some good, I haven't updated it in a year. So that's, I know that's totally on me. But last year I wrote a big piece on things a new author should know. And it got reblogged and somebody put it on their YouTube channel and stuff and analyzed it.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's a good post. I try to post things for writers and I try to post things just for me. But but anyway, those are the best places to go. But Amazon is also, obviously, if you don't want to support Amazon, go to deathsheadpress.com to find my books, awesome. Red Station and Reception.
Yes. Yes.
This has been Jude's show.
That's good.
So if you've enjoyed the content and you liked our talk, our chat with each other, and please like and follow and respond as well in the comment section. That's essential too. And of course, buy our books.
Buy our books. It's Reception and Red Station by Kenzie Jennings, and the Everstein Chronicles by Jude Matulich-Hall. Thank you.
Thanks.